Hey everybody, I'm ZombieJohnny, and today we're going to be taking a look at yet another manga video game adaptation. This is Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts is an action-adventure RPG video game directed by none other than my boy Tetsuya Nomura, developed by Square Enix and released in 2002 for the PlayStation 2. Kingdom Hearts the manga was adapted and illustrated by Shiro Amano and was released in 2005 in North America by Tokyopop. I am halting all information on the manga review until I explain the amazing circumstances surrounding the creation of Kingdom Hearts. How this game was conceptualized was a conversation between video game producer Shinji Hashimoto and video game creator Hironobu Sakaguchi talking about Mario 64. They were discussing the idea of Disney characters being brought into a video game with a 3D world and original created characters. Tetsuya Nomura overheard their conversation and thought it was a swell idea and decided to helm this crazy ship, and both Hashimoto and Sakaguchi decided that he could direct this project. Shinji Hashimoto happened to jump on an elevator with a Disney executive and happened to elevator pitch the out of this said executive and convince him to create this game with Square Enix and Disney characters coming together for one amazing and unforgettable ride. Thus, Kingdom Hearts was born. Having such strong Square Enix creators and producers such as Hironobu Sakaguchi, who is the godfather and creator of Final Fantasy, Shinji Hashimoto, who has worked on many Square Enix projects including one of my personal favorites, The Bouncer, and Tetsuya Nomura has worked on many Square Enix projects, including being the character designer for a handful of Final Fantasy titles, including Final Fantasy VII. That's right folks, Tetsuya Nomura was the creator of the most iconic Final Fantasy characters of all time. He was also the creator of The Bouncer, so yeah. And I mean, you can see where Sora gets his inspiration from. I mean, Sion is literally just old Sora. This is a trio of very talented and very creative people spearheading a very ambitious project. Sakaguchi executive producing, Hashimoto acting as creator-producer, and Nomura acting as creator-director. This project was greenlit, add in a little magic of Disney, and Kingdom Hearts was off to a running start. The story of Kingdom Hearts begins with three young kids building a raft. The three kids are named Sora, Riku, and Kairi. They are alone on a deserted island. They are building rafts to get themselves off this deserted island and discover new worlds. Meanwhile, in the magical kingdom of Disney, Donald Duck makes a shocking discovery. King Mickey has gone missing. Donald and Goofy set out to find the king. Back on the deserted island, a strange cloaked figure talks to Sora. This figure is speaking in riddles to him. Then Kairi approaches and the cloaked figure vanishes. The three kids are all set to sail and they will start their adventure to a new world in the morning. That evening, Sora notices a storm approaching, so he goes to the dock to make sure their ships can't blow away. He finds Riku being engulfed by some sort of darkness. Riku asks Sora to join him in the darkness. Sora tries to reach Riku, but then Riku is absorbed by the darkness. He then sees Kairi standing alone. Kairi then flies past Sora and disappears. Suddenly, a strange key-shaped sword appears in Sora's hands. This sword is called the Keyblade. Moments after the Keyblade is in Sora's hands, a giant creature appears in front of him. Sora uses the Keyblade to vanquish the creature and he is then sucked into a black void. He has been transported into another world and is suddenly woken up by Pluto, King Mickey's faithful pup. He has landed himself in a place called Traverse Town. He is then approached by a hooker? Yeah, it's kind of out of place, but yeah, it's a woman of the night. She is going to show Sora around town. Then, a small creature comes out of nowhere and steals the hooker's heart. Of course, not her actual heart, just a figurative heart. Yeah, don't worry. This part is pretty confusing for most people, but their heart is just like their soul or their being. After the creature steals the hooker's heart, Sora runs into a shop to get away. This shop is owned by none other than Final Fantasy's Sid. More specifically, Final Fantasy VII Sid. Sid then blasts the creatures away and then Sora is approached by Squall, or in this case Leon from Final Fantasy VIII. Leon then puts Sora to sleep, taking him to a safe place. Sora then wakes up to Yuffie from Final Fantasy VII. Briefly, Donald and Goofy arrive in Traverse Town and are looking for the Keyblade and the person who possesses it. Now back to Sora. A gang of creatures, including a giant boss, arrive and Leon, Yuffie, and Sora go to fight them. In just that moment, Donald and Goofy fall face first on top of Sora. Sora, Donald, and Goofy then fight the giant boss and vanquish it quickly. They all introduce themselves to one another, and Donald and Goofy tell Sora that they are looking for him, the Keyblade Master. They then ask Sora to join them on their journey to find the king. Sora accepts, but only under one condition: if they could search for his friends Riku and Kairi as well. Then, Sora, Donald, and Goofy team up and set out. This is where our adventure begins. So I am not going to continue on with explaining the story. Much like in the case of my review of Metal Gear Solid, there is someone who understands the story a lot more than I do and who can explain the story a lot more eloquently than I can. So let's just continue on with the review. The story of the manga goes by at a lightning fast pace. Any major bosses or enemies are taken care of quickly and don't seem to have any issues with them. I can remember the game being filled with epic battles, and this doesn't do them any justice. I suppose it's the same as all of the video game adaptations I've done. It's just they can't portray these epic battles in an interesting way. This adaptation seems to be more focused on the characters and their interactions. I read through this entire series in pretty much one sitting in about half a day. They also skip over some of the parts of the overall story from the game. They skip a couple of fairly important parts of the original story, but having to adapt those into a manga might have added a couple of extra volumes to the series, and I'm guessing there were some time constraints. I mean, skipping Tarzan's jungle is okay with me, but they skip over Halloween Town, and that is not okay with me. Of course, it's my favorite part of the original game. Overall, Sora spends a lot less time in the other worlds and doesn't really build any friendships along the way. Most of the time, he's really just focused on himself and Donald and Goofy, going quickly through a select few Disney worlds. So from what I can tell, Shiro Amano seems to have painted himself into the corner of video game adaptation manga. That appears to be all he has worked on for the most part. Amano's art style is different, but in a good way. His style is very expressive. All of the characters have very exaggerated features, and they go into this very cartoony, loud, and bombastic place, with large eyes and huge expressions. It's very reminiscent of Disney's animation style. That being said, Amano's line work is fantastic, though I will say it is very cutesy, but it has some real care put into it, making everyone very recognizable. All of the Disney characters have a very strong resemblance to the original character designs, as well as the Square Enix characters. They are very true to the Kingdom Hearts redesigns, and Amano's work is still true to the designs that Tetsuya Nomura used for Kingdom Hearts. I've said this countless times about the adaptations I've reviewed, but once again, in this case, Amano was the perfect choice for this manga. There is one thing that bothers me a little bit about this manga. The manga has a trim at the bottom of the pages that is a simple graphic flourish that shows the page number, which in my opinion is a little distracting, and also it makes the art smaller on the page. I am not positive that the original art was in a different format or was done in this format, but I feel it's a waste of good page space. It also isn't even throughout the whole manga, which means some of the pages were trimmed to fit this spacing at the bottom. Why this was an aesthetic choice, I'm not sure, but it's something that bothered me while reading it. The presentation of this manga is fairly nice. I bought the complete series box set. I actually purchased the used version because I wasn't able to find anything on Amazon that was a reasonable price. The version I purchased was the Tokyo Pop Complete Series Edition. It came with 4 volumes and a nice little slipcase. There is some wear and tear on the slipcase, but other than that, considering it's a used set, the condition of this is really good. There is a small amount of edge damage on the spines, but they aren't cracked and there's no rips or tears on the pages. I believe I paid around $30 Canadian for this set, which in my opinion is very, very reasonable, considering all of the other used sets I've looked at are well beyond that price. Kingdom Hearts, the complete series, is a nice little adaptation of a video game I absolutely loved when I was younger. I guess I kind of glossed over that fact. I love this series. I mean, I still enjoy it, but it has become a little bit convoluted and the game hasn't really aged that well. And I haven't kept up with the spin-off games either, but I can remember being so excited for this series when I was younger. I still own my original copy and have a lot of fond memories playing this game. Overall, Kingdom Hearts is a great little read. I found myself understanding and remembering a lot more of the story based on my history with the video game. So, if you haven't played the video game, then I would say it's probably a good idea to play it before you read this manga. This series does really feel like it was just made for fans of the games and not for every reader. Total page count 568. Total volumes 4. Total score 3 out of 5.
thank you all so much once again for watching. This has been just an amazing experience. I've really enjoyed doing this series. If you couldn't tell, I still really enjoy Kingdom Hearts. I still have all my games lined up, and yeah, it was such a fun little trip down memory lane for me. I started playing the game for a while too, but I'm finding myself struggling to get through it. It, like I said in the review, it didn't age as well as I thought it did. And you know, it's actually quite a frustrating game. It's a little complicated and it's kind of a goofy little game, and yeah, it's just amazing that it came to light. And yeah, it was a big trip down memory lane, but the big news out of all of this is that we finally did it, folks. We did it. We hit that 400. Thank you all so much for all the support. It's absolutely amazing. I'm absolutely baffled that we did it, and yeah, I'm still growing. Things are still happening. It's going so well, and I'm so happy about that. So thank you all so much. I cannot give you enough gratitude and enough appreciation for all the support over the years. And yes, I do have the 400 subscriber challenge prepared. I just need to record it and get it done and get it out there. Might take a little bit of time, especially with work schedules and things like that, but hopefully I'll get it out soon. This review took a little while to get done too. It ended up being a little bit bigger than I thought it was going to be, but yes, once again, thank you all so much. I am so happy, and we're just going to keep going up from here, folks. I'm so happy. Thank you all so much. And in the future, hopefully we're gonna have some reviews done right away here. I've got a couple little things working on the sidelines right now, so just look forward to all of the reviews, and I look forward to celebrating more subscriber specials with you, and yes, thank you all so much. So be prepared for more reviews in the year, and it's gonna be a great year, so thank you all. I'm ZombieJohnny. Peace.